Microbes do not discriminate. Welcome back to the Savage Nation. I coined that phrase 30 years ago. Germs don't discriminate. They don't know if you're a good guy or a bad guy. They don't care. They don't care if you're a conservative or liberal. They don't care if you're funny or mean. They don't care what your race is, what your sexual orientation is. They don't care what country you came from. Microbes do not discriminate. So whoever you may be listening to the show tonight, the Savage Nation, understand one thing. Forget about my political orientation. It's unimportant. What's important is that you learn that not everything your government tells you is true. So it's good to have a cynic in radio who questions authority, as I do, and tells you better not jump just because they tell you to jump. And just because they get a doctor wearing a usher's uniform from the CDC with epaulettes doesn't mean he knows what he's talking about. They're paid spokesmen for the government, which is directly tied to the pharmaceutical industry. In some cases, it can be wonderful. By the way, I'm not a proponent of avoiding all pharmaceuticals by any means. I want you to understand that. I think Western medicine is the most miraculous form of medicine on the planet. I'm talking specifically tonight about vaccines. I'm a big vitamin taker, a big herbal guy, wrote books on herbal medicine, homeopathy, botanicals I know a lot about. But on the other hand, I've used an awful lot of life-saving regular medicines. Flu vaccine? No, I wouldn't take it. And there's a couple of reasons. The reasons are quite simple. They have to guess, first of all, what the vaccine should be made of. So they choose 3 to 5 strains of influenza A out of 250-plus strains, right? And if they don't guess the right one, you're going to get sick. So you're putting your faith in the CDC's ability to guess the one that might be a pandemic. So what did they do this year? They guessed right on 2 of the strains and wrong on 1 of the strains. So the flu vaccine is rather ineffective. Now, on the other hand, people say, which risk would you rather take? 1 in a million of a side effect or 1 in 10,000 risk of being hospitalized or dying? So they say take the flu vaccine, and many of you did. I believe the risks of the flu shot, on the other hand, the risks outweigh any benefit. Formaldehyde is in the common flu shot. It's a known carcinogen. Another ingredient in the flu shot is a mercury-containing compound called thimerosal, which impairs neurological and immune systems. There are also detergents, antibiotics, chemicals, and allergens like polysorbate 80 that causes infertility, including other ingredients that are unsafe for human consumption. In fact, the CDC itself lists some of these ingredients on its own website, but they will then say, quote, there is no evidence of harm caused by the small amounts of thimerosal and flu vaccine. I'm not convinced, though. You may say, well, I took the shot and the flu didn't kill me. But when you're older and you get ALS or Alzheimer's disease or MS, or you watch your kid develop seizures, or your kid becomes autistic, God forbid, what are you going to say? Are you going to say it's related to the small amounts of mercury and other contaminants, or preservatives, rather, and such in the flu vaccine? You don't know that. But why increase the chances of inducing such illnesses in yourself and your children? That's a big question. It's one you're going to have to make up for yourself. It's easy to just go along with the program. It's easy to go along with the government program, but I'll ask you a question. Did Harry Reid get a flu shot? Did Barack Obama take a flu shot? Did Barack Obama's lovely family take a flu shot? Did Joe Biden take a flu shot? Who took a flu shot in the government? Would you know? Which of the mandarins took the flu shot? Which of the mandarins took the flu shot? For years, I've been calling for drug testing, mandatory drug testing for all of our public servants. Because most of the things they're doing indicate that they're using high amounts of prescription drugs and high amounts of illegal substances. They're crazy. Most of them are nuts. They're like drug addicts, like Hitler was. They're not Hitler, but the entire Nazi regime was on drugs. So why should we assume that this government's not on drugs? Now, that's a separate story, but it's tied into this. And now that I have your attention, we'll say it again. You go to work for a corporation, you have to pee in a cup. They're running the corporation called the United States of America, and they don't pee in a cup. And their decisions look like they're on drugs. So let's go back now to the issue at hand. We won't deal with the other one right now. It's too embarrassing to even contemplate what I just said. Vaccination. Let's look at vaccination. Vaccination coverage among the elderly. Remember, Most of the people who get the flu and die are over 70. Did you know that? Most of the people who get the flu and die are over 70. That's the group over 70 that accounts for 3/4 of all flu deaths, right? So has it prevented death in that population? I'll give you an actual article from the American Journal of Respiratory Critical Care Medicine from 2008, legitimate journal. Vaccination coverage among the elderly increased from 15% in 1980 to 65% of people of the elderly. 1980, 15% were getting the vaccine. By 2008, 65% got the vaccines, probably much higher now. And the results? No decrease in deaths from influenza and pneumonia. As one vaccine researcher wrote, I think the evidence base for mortality benefits from flu shots we have learned is not valid. That's in Lancet Infectious Diseases from 2007. How about young children? Also a lack of evidence that young children benefit from flu shots. A review of 51 studies involving 260,000 children ages 6 to 23 months found no evidence that the flu vaccine is any more effective than a placebo. Did you hear that one? I have the reference if you want it. The fact of the matter is, no randomized trials show that flu shots reduce mortality from influenza or flu-related pneumonia. Now, some studies do show that the flu vaccine is somewhat effective in preventing influenza. That's on the other side. I didn't say it doesn't. It will reduce the relative risk of contracting influenza by a seemingly impressive 50%. But you're getting an awful lot of risk in doing so. And you have to evaluate that. Do you know how vaccine makers grow the virus? Well, they grow the virus in fertilized chicken eggs. Did you know that? With 500,000 eggs per day for up to 8 months. And what do they use to inactivate the virus? Formaldehyde, which is a known cancer-causing agent. Aluminum is then added to the mixture to promote an antibody response. Aluminum is a neurotoxin that may play a role in Alzheimer's disease. For a few years, I was director of the Alzheimer's Research Institute. I never talk about it. I was deeply involved in the nightmare of aluminum and its relationship to Alzheimer's disease. In fact, you can check the literature. I wrote a popular book called Reducing the Risk of Alzheimer's. I don't know the year, 2001. I don't remember. It was way before radio. No, it couldn't be '01. I don't remember the year. I started in radio 94, so it had to be in the 90s. Yeah, it was in the 90s. I was interested in Alzheimer's disease, set up an institute, ran it, and I wrote a book, Reducing the Risk of Alzheimer's. It was a fascinating couple of years for me. I decided to reduce or eliminate aluminum in all forms in my life after that because aluminum was, in my mind, related to the lesions that develop, related to the lesions that are associated with Alzheimer's disease. Well, there's aluminum in that as well. There are other additives that I won't scare you with. There are other antibiotics that are in there. Did you know that? Neomycin, streptomycin, and gentamicin that can cause allergic reactions in some people. Did you know that? And then the mercury. And the mercury's in there. So as I say, buyer beware. Don't just run into it because the government media complex tells you that you must have it, it's good for you. I'm trying to give you the other side of the story. Let's put it to you that way. And I hope that I've helped you somewhat.